Sometimes the most devastating words are spoken over dinner. He ate halfway before she asked, "How's your son?" He froze. The spoon hung in the air. Victor's spoon clattered to the table. In that moment, 11 years of marriage shattered with 4 simple words. If you think you know how this story ends, you're wrong. If you think you've seen revenge before, you haven't seen anything yet. This is the story of how one woman discovered her husband's double life, his second wife, his secret child, and a betrayal so deep it went right into her own family. But more importantly, this is the story of how she destroyed him using nothing but patience, intelligence, and the law. We all trust the people we love. We believe in the promises they make. We build our lives on the foundation of their words. But what happens when you discover that the person you've shared your bed with for over a decade has been living an entirely different life? What happens when the man who calls you his wife already has another one? And what happens when a woman who has been underestimated her entire marriage finally decides to show exactly what she's capable of? So how did this story begin? Let's start from the beginning. It was 6:17 a.m. in Lagos, and the sound of the kettle boiling in the kitchen blended with the chirping birds outside the window. Adeora folded her husband's shirts quietly. The generator had gone off during the night again, but that wasn't new. Nothing was, except her husband. Victor was acting different. For the last 3 weeks, he'd been flying to Abuja for work, a real estate conference, he said. But his cologne smelled new. He was smiling into his phone too often. He started showering at night before trips, and once she saw him pack 2 pairs of cufflinks for a 2-day trip. Still, Adara said nothing. She was not the type to nag. They had been married 11 years, shared a home in Lekki, had 2 daughters in private school. Her friends envied her. She was soft-spoken, elegant, always composed. But something didn't feel right. On this particular morning, Victor came out of the shower humming. He wore his usual navy blue suit, but she noticed he didn't touch the breakfast she laid out. "Flight's in an hour. I'll call when I land," he said, brushing her cheek with a kiss that didn't linger. Adeora smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Safe trip." As he wheeled his suitcase out, she watched from the gate, then turned to the gateman. "Call me the moment Oga's Uber comes back to this estate," she said, her voice calm but firm. The gateman blinked, confused. "Madam?" "You heard me." Adeora went inside and closed the door. 2 hours later, the gateman called. "Madam?" Oga's Uber just returned. Her hands froze. "Returned?" "Yes, ma. Same car, same driver." "Did he drop something?" "No, ma. The man picked another woman from down the road, same suitcase." Adeora's blood went cold. She dressed quickly, called a friend who worked in telecoms, and with one phone number got access to the impossible, Victor's call log. What she found made her knees buckle. One number, constant, multiple times a day. Every night before bed, she called it. A soft female voice answered. "Hello?" Adora paused, controlled her breathing. "Is this Cynthia?" The voice brightened. "Yes, who's this?" Adora swallowed. "I think you know Victor Okizi." A pause, then silence, then a click. The line went dead. Adeora sat on the floor and began to shake, but she didn't cry, she didn't scream. She got up, wiped her face, and started digging. Over the next 3 days, Adeora discovered everything. Victor wasn't just cheating. He had another home, in Abuja, with another woman, and a child, a 2-year-old boy. There were pictures online. One showed Victor holding the child at a poolside party. Another showed Cynthia tagging him on a birthday post. "To the man who changed my life, we love you. Come home soon." Home? Adeora's fingers gripped her phone so tight, it cracked. When Victor returned that Friday evening, he found the house calm. The generator was on. The lights were warm. The girls were asleep. Adeora was in the living room wearing his favorite red satin dress. "Welcome," she said softly. Victor blinked. "Ah, you're up. I made pepper soup. You hungry?" He smiled, relaxing. "Wow, it's been a long day. That would help." She brought the soup, sat across from him. He ate halfway before she asked, "How's your son?" He froze. The spoon hung in the air. What are you talking about?" "Cynthia's boy. He has your eyes." Victor's spoon clattered to the table. For 10 seconds, there was silence. Then he said, I can explain. No, she said sharply. Not here. She stood up and walked to the bedroom, returned with a small brown envelope. Inside were printed photos, bank statements, call logs. I know everything. Victor stared at the evidence. You went through my phone. Or I followed your lies. He opened his mouth, but she raised a finger. Don't speak. Not now. I won't yell. I won't fight. But from now on, you will be honest. Victor put his head in his hands. I didn't mean for this to happen. You didn't mean to marry another woman and raise a son. It's not like that. I got confused. Cynthia. She was there when work got hard. You were always busy with the girls, the house. Say it, she whispered. I was too much of a wife for you, so you wanted a fantasy. Victor looked away. Adaora stood. Tomorrow morning you'll pack your things. You'll leave this house. He looked up, panicked. Adaora, please, don't break our home. You already did. She walked to the bedroom door, then turned. And if you think this is the end, it's not. Victor stared at her. What does that mean? Adaora gave him a cold smile. You'll find out. Then she closed the door behind her. Victor didn't leave the next morning. Instead, he sat on the dining room chair from 6 a.m. to 10, waiting for Adaora to come out of the bedroom. She didn't. At 11, she opened the door, dressed in her work clothes, holding her handbag like nothing had happened. You're still here, she said flatly. Victor stood quickly. Adaora, please, let's talk properly. We've built too much for it to end like this. She brushed past him. Move your car. I need to take the girls to school. He followed her to the car. I'll do anything, just don't throw away our marriage. Cynthia doesn't mean what you think. She stopped sharply. So now she's not your wife? Victor hesitated. We're not legally married. It's more of a relationship. A relationship with a son. He couldn't answer that. She got into the car and drove off. By noon, Victor was in Abuja. He showed up at Cynthia's apartment unannounced, knocking aggressively until she opened. Her eyes were swollen. She looked like she hadn't slept. You told her? She asked. No, he snapped. She found out. She knows everything. Cynthia, what the hell did you tell her when she called? I panicked, she shouted. I didn't know what to say. I thought you already told her. I said I'd handle it. You were supposed to fix things with her long ago. You said you were going to divorce her. Victor grabbed his head. This wasn't the plan. Cynthia stared at him, then turned away. She called me again this morning. Victor's heart skipped. She did? Cynthia nodded. She wants to meet. When? She said 4 p.m. today, at the lounge across from the central bank. Victor ran a hand over his face. What does she want? Cynthia looked at him with red eyes. I don't know, but I think she wants to talk woman to woman. At exactly 3:55 p.m., Adaora walked into the lounge, calm as a Sunday breeze. She wore a simple gown, no makeup, no jewelry, just grace. Cynthia was already seated. They stared at each other in silence for a few seconds. You're taller than I expected, Adaora said, sitting across from her. Cynthia chuckled nervously. And you're calmer than I thought. Adaora folded her hands. Let's not waste each other's time. I'm not here to cry or beg. I'm here to understand how you became part of my life without permission. Cynthia sighed. I met Victor 3 years ago at a real estate event in Abuja. He told me he was separated, that his wife had moved out. I believed him. Adaora didn't blink. And the child? I didn't plan to get pregnant. I told him I'd raise the baby alone. But he came back. He said he wanted to be a father. He started spending more time with us. I thought he was serious. Adaora listened, emotionless. Cynthia continued. He lied to both of us. Yes, he did, Adaora said softly. But the difference is, I built with him. You were the reward he bought for himself with my loyalty. Cynthia's eyes dropped. I didn't know. I swear Adaora reached into her bag and brought out a folded document. What's this? Cynthia asked. A copy of a land transfer Victor made into your name 2 months ago. I found it in our safe. Cynthia stared at the papers, stunned. He didn't even tell me. I could contest it, legally, but I won't. Cynthia looked up, confused. Why not? Adaora leaned forward. Because I want you to keep it. You'll need it more than I do. That man is going to ruin your life. Cynthia swallowed. Adaora stood. You don't owe me anything, but I do hope you ask yourself, was he ever worth all this? She turned to leave, then paused. And tell him, we're not done. That evening, Victor returned to Lagos to find his clothes neatly packed into 2 boxes on the veranda. Adeora sat in the living room with her lawyer. Your name is not on this house, she said calmly. It's in my father's name. The papers were transferred 2 years ago when your debts started piling. You just didn't know. Victor's mouth fell open. You transferred it? Behind my back. You were too busy with your second life. He turned to the lawyer. You can't throw me out of my own home. I'm not. I'm throwing you out of mine. Victor's voice shook. What about the girls? They'll stay with me. You can visit, as long as you don't bring your mess with you. He laughed bitterly. You've planned all this, haven't you? I just started. That night, Victor stayed in a cheap hotel. The next morning, Cynthia called. Victor, we need to talk. What now? He muttered. I think we made a mistake. You lied to me. I don't know if I can do this anymore. He sat up straight. Cynthia, don't start. We have a son. No, you have a son. I have regrets. And just like that, she hung up. Victor stared at the phone. Everything was falling apart. The next day, Adeora walked into her office with a straight face. Everyone stared at her like they expected her to be shattered. But she walked taller than ever. Because for the first time in 11 years, she had peace and a plan. What Victor didn't know was that his company's name was also on a list of businesses under investigation by the Economic Financial Crime Commission, EFCC. And Adeora? She had just made the first anonymous tip. Victor sat in the corner of a cheap hotel room in Ikeja, shirt half-buttoned, eyes bloodshot. His phone screen was cracked. Cynthia had blocked him. Adeora had kicked him out. His daughters weren't taking his calls. Everything was crumbling. He stared at his bank app. The balance was dangerously low. The last few deals had failed. The fake construction project he cooked up to impress Abuja investors had been exposed anonymously. Someone had leaked emails. He suspected Adeora. Who else knew those files? But he had no proof. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered immediately. Hello? A voice spoke calmly. Mr. Victor Okizi, this is Inspector Madu from the EFCC. We have a few questions regarding your company's transactions in 2022 and 2023. We'd like you to come in for questioning. Victor felt sweat run down his back. I'm not in town right now. We'll send officers to your registered residence. If we don't find you, we'll issue a warrant. The line went dead. Victor collapsed onto the bed. Everything was gone. Meanwhile, Adeora sat in her lawyer's office, going through documents. Her hands were steady, her voice calm, but inside, a storm was rising. She looked at her lawyer, Mr. Dyke. I want him stripped from the school records, PTA, fees, everything. I'll be responsible. Dyke nodded. It's done. But he's still their father. You sure you don't want to file for sole custody? Adeora stared out the window for a moment. Not yet. Let him feel what absence tastes like first. She left the office, drove to her daughter's school, and sat in the car, watching them laugh with friends during break time. She smiled. For them, she would remain strong. Later that night, as she prepared dinner, she got a call. It was Cynthia. Adeora answered slowly. Yes? I just wanted to say, you were right. Cynthia's voice sounded tired. He's been lying to me for years. The land he gave me, turns out it was already under legal dispute. He used my name as cover. Adeora exhaled through her nose. I warned you. Cynthia went quiet. Then she said, I want to return something. It's a file. Victor left it with me last year. I think it's dangerous. It has a list of offshore accounts, maybe bribes. I don't want to be part of his mess. Adeora paused. Her voice was firm. Give it to me, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. At Mama Iriti's food place in Voost 2, Victor didn't sleep. He was pacing inside a friend's guest house in Festas. He had no idea where Cynthia had gone. She wasn't answering. His lawyer refused to take his calls. Then he got a text from an unknown number. She knows everything. The accounts. The bribes. If you don't stop her, you're finished. His heart nearly stopped. Who sent that? Cynthia? No. Maybe someone else. Someone in the business circle. He opened his laptop, searched for flights to Ghana. Nothing affordable. His cards were frozen. His backup accounts had already been emptied trying to save his fake project in Port Harcourt. Then he remembered something. The file. The one he left in Cynthia's drawer. If Adayora got her hands on that... He grabbed his keys and rushed out. Cynthia waited at the food place the next morning. She held a brown envelope in her lap. Her eyes scanned the street. 8:07 a.m. No sign of Adayora yet. Suddenly, a black car pulled up. Victor stepped out. Cynthia's face changed. He approached quickly. "Where's the file?" he asked, voice low but tense. "You told me it was a harmless investment plan," she replied. "I need it back." "I already gave it to Adayora." Victor's face darkened. "Cynthia, don't play games with me." "I'm not. You should be begging her for forgiveness." Victor grabbed her wrist. "If that file reaches the wrong hands, we're both finished." "Then maybe we should be finished," Cynthia said coldly. Victor snatched the envelope, opened it. It was empty. Cynthia had lied. He pushed her back. "Where is it?" "Too late," she said. "You already destroyed yourself." People were watching now. A woman across the street pulled out her phone, recording. Victor noticed and quickly left. At that same moment, Adayora was already at the EFCC office, calmly handing the file to Inspector Madhu. "This may help your investigation," she said. The inspector flipped through it, eyebrows rising. "This is big. Offshore shell companies, fake contracts, missing donor funds." Adayora nodded. "You'll find Victor's signature on everyone." He looked at her. "You understand this could lead to arrest?" She didn't blink. "That's the idea." That evening, Victor tried to enter the compound of his cousin's house in Yaba, but the gateman refused him. "Oga say you should not come here again." He stood there, stunned. He was now completely alone. By nightfall, he checked into a rundown motel. His breath reeked of alcohol. His phone buzzed. A text from Adayora. "You always said you were the head of this house, but even the head can roll. Let's see what a headless man builds next." He stared at the message, trembling. Then he laughed, a dry, broken laugh. He had no money, no love, no name left. And the woman he had underestimated? She was just getting started. Victor sat on the floor of the motel bathroom, staring at his reflection in the cracked mirror. His beard was overgrown. His shirt hadn't been washed in days. His hands trembled. The once powerful businessman now looked like a man who had been dragged through dust. Because he had. But one thing about Victor, when cornered, he didn't surrender. He calculated. His phone rang. It was Chief Omolayo, an old associate who had benefited from Victor's shady contracts years ago. "I heard your wife's been moving around with some documents," Chief said, voice gruff. Victor straightened. "She handed them to the EFCC." Chief was quiet for a moment. "You dragged my name into your greed. If those files get me investigated, I will make sure you disappear. I can fix this, Chief. I just need time." "You have 48 hours. Clear my name or I'll clear you out of this country." Victor hung up, hands shaking. He had just made a dangerous enemy. Meanwhile, Adayora stood at the edge of her compound, watching her daughters ride bicycles in the open space. For the first time in years, their laughter didn't sound like background noise. It filled the air, free, unhindered. Her lawyer called. "EFCC just confirmed they're freezing all Victor's personal accounts. They may summon you for witness testimony next." She nodded. "I'll be ready." But even as she spoke, a part of her was uneasy. Victor hadn't made a move in days. That was dangerous. The next morning, Adayora was heading to work when her car screeched to a halt at a checkpoint. Uniformed men surrounded her. "Madam Adayora Okezi?" the officer asked. "Yes?" "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and blackmail." "What?" Before she could react, they dragged her out of the car and into a black van. Within minutes, the news hit social media. Victor's wife arrested for blackmail and fraud. At the station, Adayora sat quietly, refusing to panic. She waited. She knew this wasn't real. It was Victor. He was striking back. 2 hours later, her lawyer stormed in. "This is nonsense," he told the officer. "You can't arrest a woman over anonymous claims without evidence." The officer handed him a file. Inside were screenshots of emails. Falsified messages made to look like Adayora was threatening to expose Victor unless he paid her 20 million naira. She stared at the papers, stunned. Victor had gone that far, but just as the officer smirked and said, "We'll take her to court by Friday," something happened. Another officer burst into the room. "Sir, new evidence just came in from EFCC headquarters." He handed the lead officer a sealed envelope. The man opened it, read the document, then looked sharply at Adaora. "You're free to go." "What?" "We just received official confirmation. Those emails were doctored. IP addresses traced to a cybercafe in Festac. Victor had framed her, but the digital trail betrayed him. Adaora rose slowly, collected her things, and walked out of the station with her lawyer at her side. The press swarmed. "Madam Adaora, is it true your husband tried to set you up?" She paused, faced the cameras. "All I'll say is this: truth has a way of surviving fire, and I'm still standing." Victor watched the press conference from a bar in Egbeda, a drink in hand. He smashed the glass against the table. How had she escaped? Everything was slipping through his fingers. Then a man approached him quietly and handed him a file. Victor opened it. Inside were photos of Adaora meeting with Cynthia, and a voice recording of their conversation. "You see," the man said, "you're not the only one who can play dirty." Victor smirked. This was his last weapon. That night, Amarachi tucked her daughters into bed, kissed them, and went downstairs to clean the kitchen. She heard a knock. When she opened the door, a large envelope lay on the floor. No name, no return address. She brought it in, opened it. Inside were pictures of her and Cynthia having lunch. A fake letter addressed to the EFCC, confessing that Adaora paid Cynthia to lie about Victor. A USB stick with a voice recording. But it had been edited, chopped, words rearranged. Victor's final attack, a desperate, dirty one. The next morning, Adaora walked straight into the EFCC office and slammed the file on the table. "This was delivered to my house, and it's fake." Inspector Madhu nodded. "We already received a similar version, anonymously." "From Victor?" "Most likely." She stared at him. "So what happens now?" The inspector leaned forward. "We've been gathering something bigger. Victor didn't just lie to women. He forged documents to win a federal contract 3 years ago. The paperwork disappeared back then. But now, someone just gave us the missing file." Adaora blinked. "Who?" "An old enemy of his, someone you don't even know." He handed her a new file. Adaora opened it. Her eyes widened. There, stamped and signed, was proof Victor had embezzled over 350 million naira in public funds. He was going to jail. That evening, she sat in her compound, watching the sunset. The gate opened. Cynthia walked in slowly, holding her son. Adaora stood up. "Why are you here?" Cynthia's eyes were tired, but her voice was steady. "I came to say thank you for not destroying me when you could have." Adaora looked at the little boy. He had Victor's eyes. She knelt down gently. "What's his name?" "Emeka," Cynthia whispered. Adaora smiled faintly. "He's innocent in all this." Then she stood up. "I hope you raise him better than we knew his father." The courtroom was packed. Journalists lined the back rows. Lawyers whispered to their clients. Spectators leaned forward in their seats. Everyone had come to see the fall of Victor Okizi, once a respected businessman, now the face of a high-profile fraud case. Adaora sat quietly in the second row behind the prosecution, her face unreadable. She wore a simple black gown, no makeup, no jewelry. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone said everything: dignity, strength, silence that echoed louder than any scream. Victor walked in, dressed in a borrowed suit, wrists chained in front. His eyes scanned the courtroom. He spotted Adaora. Their eyes met. She didn't blink. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial began. The prosecution laid out their evidence. Fake contracts, illegal offshore transfers, shell companies, and most damaging of all, federal grants that had vanished under Victor's name. Victor's lawyer tried to paint him as a victim of emotional stress, blaming the collapse of his marriage for poor decisions. But the evidence was too strong. Witnesses came forward. One by one, former business partners turned on him. Even his former PA confessed. "He asked me to destroy records." I refused. He fired me. Cynthia also testified. She stood, holding her child's hand. "I was deceived," she said. "He used me, promised me a future while hiding a wife and 2 daughters." Victor's eyes were cold. Not once did he look at her. Then it was Adaora's turn. She took the stand, raised her hand, and swore to speak the truth. The prosecutor asked gently, "Madam, what do you want the court to understand?" She looked at the judge. "I want the court to understand what power really is." Murmurs spread. She continued, "For years, I was the woman behind the curtain. I raised the children, supported the home, and even signed papers I didn't fully read, because I trusted him. He told me I was everything while he made me nothing behind my back." She paused, her voice steady. "Victor didn't just steal money. He stole peace. He stole time. He broke people, not just banks." The judge nodded solemnly. "Thank you, Mrs. Okizi." Victor looked away. Adaora stepped down without looking back. After closing arguments, the judge announced that sentencing would be passed the next week. But as everyone stood to leave, a loud noise echoed in the hallway. A man in a security uniform rushed in, shouting, Madam Adaora, come quick, it's your daughter." Adaora dropped her bag. "What happened?" "She collapsed in school. The ambulance is outside." The next scene was chaos. Sirens, screams, hospital lights. Adaora sat beside her unconscious daughter, IVs hooked into the child's small arm. Doctors moved around quickly, nurses whispering. "What's wrong with her?" Adaora cried. A nurse replied, "Stress, anxiety. She's been keeping things bottled up." "What things?" The nurse hesitated, then said, "She saw the news." "The trial, she knows everything." Adaora broke down. All this while she had tried to stay strong, but she hadn't realized. The children were watching and breaking silently. That night, Adaora stood outside the hospital under the rain. Victor was a few steps away, standing behind the security gate. He had come, but he didn't enter. He just stood, drenched. She didn't move toward him. They stared across the rain-soaked road. Then he spoke, his voice barely reaching her. "I'm sorry." Adaora didn't respond. He nodded, understanding that silence was her answer. Then he walked away, disappearing into the night. Back home, Adaora sat on the edge of her bed, holding her daughter's teddy bear. Her phone buzzed. It was a text. From a hidden number. "Victor's not your only enemy. Look deeper. Someone close is feeding your pain." She froze. Was it a prank, a warning, or another trap? She looked around the quiet room. The house suddenly felt unsafe. Adaora couldn't sleep. She stared at the text on her phone over and over. "Victor's not your only enemy. Look deeper. Someone close is feeding your pain." At first she thought it was a prank, but the number was international, untraceable. She blocked it, but the words stayed in her head all night. She rose before dawn and checked the locks on every door and window. Then she went into her daughter's room. They were fast asleep. Her oldest, Chiamaka, turned in her sleep and muttered softly, "Daddy didn't mean it." Adaora's heart cracked again. The next day, Adaora received an unannounced visitor, Ebuka, Victor's younger cousin. They hadn't spoken in months. He walked into her compound nervously, holding a brown envelope. "Please, I don't want trouble," he said. Adaora folded her arms. "Then don't bring any." "I came to confess," Ebuka said. "I was helping Victor, even after you found out." Her stomach turned. "You what?" "I was his eyes. I told him when you were in Abuja, when you met Cynthia. I thought I was helping him save his marriage." "You knew about the second life?" Ebuka nodded shamefully. "He said you were cold, that you didn't love him anymore. I believed him." Adaora snatched the envelope. Inside were screenshots, bank transfers, email threads, payments to journalists, plans to spin stories online, even a draft of a fake interview where Adaora would be accused of fabricating evidence out of jealousy. She stared at Ebuka, eyes hard. "You helped him plan all this? I didn't know it would go this far. Leave. Now." He stood slowly. He's still planning something. He may try to run. Adaora looked up. "Run where?" "Ghana, a fake passport, tomorrow night." He left without another word. That evening, Adaora visited Cynthia one last time. "I need your help," she said simply. Cynthia looked tired. The child was asleep in her arms. "What now?" "He's planning to escape. We need to stop him." Cynthia looked away. I'm done chasing ghosts, Adaora. Adaora softened. If he runs, he wins. If he wins, we both lose. And so do our children. Cynthia nodded slowly. She handed Adaora a flash drive. Everything I ever had on Victor, texts, voice notes, even one call he made to an agent about the fake passport. Adaora held it tightly. You sure you're ready for this? Cynthia asked. Adaora nodded. Then send it, Cynthia said. End him. The next morning, Victor stood in a dingy apartment in Badagry, waiting for his contact. He held a duffel bag, cash, burner phones, a change of clothes. He was ready. His contact arrived, handed him a passport. New name. You'll be in Accra before sunset. Victor nodded. What about customs? All settled. My boys are there. He smiled faintly. Thank you. But before he could leave, he saw flashing red and blue lights outside. He froze. The door flew open. Victor Okezi, an immigration officer shouted. You're under arrest for attempted escape and passport fraud. Victor dropped the bag. Wait! You have the right to remain silent. They dragged him away. His escape ended before it began. That night, the news broke across Nigeria. Victor Okezi caught trying to flee the country with forged documents. The headlines shifted. Public sympathy evaporated. Sponsors that once backed him condemned him openly. Adaora watched the news in silence. Her daughters sat beside her, leaning on her shoulders. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just whispered, "Now it's over." Or so she thought. The next day, while preparing lunch, she received a voice message. It was from her late mother's old friend, someone she hadn't spoken to in years. Adaora, the woman said carefully, I think you deserve to know something. I've kept this from you too long. But it's time. Adaora frowned, pressing the phone closer to her ear. Victor didn't just betray you with Cynthia. There was someone else. Someone very close to you. Someone you call family. She paused. I'm sorry, my dear. It was your own sister. Adaora froze. Her legs gave out. She sat on the floor, heart thumping. My sister? That night, Adaora went through old photos. Birthday parties, weddings, Christmas mornings. Her sister Neka was in all of them, smiling, laughing, hugging Victor, holding her daughters. She remembered the way Neka always defended Victor. He's just stressed, she'd say. Men make mistakes. How could she have missed it? Then she remembered something else. A year ago, she had caught a strange perfume on Victor's shirt. Not hers, not his. She assumed it was Cynthia's. But Neka had been visiting that day. Was it possible? The next morning, she sent Neka a text. Come over, I need to talk, urgently. Neka arrived just after 10 a.m. She wore her usual floral blouse, carrying a small purse, and that same nervous smile Adaora had grown used to over the years. Ah, sister, she said cheerfully, walking in. I got your message. What's wrong? Adaora didn't return the smile. She gestured to the chair. Sit. Neka frowned slightly but obeyed. Adaora placed her phone on the table between them, pressed play. The voice message played again, loud, clear and slow. Victor didn't just betray you with Cynthia, it was your own sister. When it ended, silence settled like dust. Neka didn't move, didn't blink. Finally she sighed and removed her earrings. I knew this day would come. Adaora's lips trembled. So it's true? Neka looked away. I didn't plan it. It just happened. When? Adaora asked. Neka's voice cracked. It started the year your father died. You were always busy. Victor would come by, drop off groceries, help with bills. One night I was vulnerable. So was he. Adaora's hands clenched. How many times? Too many. Adaora closed her eyes. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was deep. Family deep. Bone deep. You watched me cry over him, you held me, and still, I hated myself every time. Neka whispered, but somehow I kept hoping he would leave you for me. But he never did. Adaora stood. I don't want you near my daughters again. Neka stood too, eyes shining with tears. Please, don't take my family from me. You already took mine, Adaora said coldly. Neka walked to the door, then stopped. One last thing. The night you went into labor with Chiamaka, Victor wasn't at the office like he told you. He was with me. The door closed behind her. Adaora dropped to her knees. And finally, After months of holding it in, she wept. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed again. Victor sat alone in handcuffs. His eyes looked hollow, like someone who had accepted his fate. He didn't scan the room this time. He didn't look for Adaora. He already knew. The judge read the verdict slowly. Victor Okizi, for fraud, embezzlement, and attempted evasion of justice, you are hereby sentenced to 14 years in prison, without the option of fine. There was no outburst, no gasp, just silence. Victor nodded slightly, as if he'd finally realized what he'd truly lost. Outside the courthouse, Adaora stood with her daughters. Cynthia stood a few steps behind, holding her son. The press crowded them again. Madame Adaora, any final words now that Victor is sentenced? She looked into the camera, face calm, eyes sharp. Pain doesn't always kill you. Sometimes it teaches you. And I've learned that silence is stronger than shouting, and dignity never goes out of style. Flashbulbs popped. A wave of applause came from the small crowd of women standing nearby. One of them stepped forward, holding a handwritten sign. Adaora inspired me to leave a toxic man. Another woman held one that read, "We believe you. We see you. We are you." Adaora's throat tightened. For the first time, her story wasn't just hers. It had become a mirror for others. Later that evening, back at home, Adaora tucked her daughters in. She kissed their foreheads and whispered, "You are loved. You are safe. You are enough." Then she stepped out into the veranda, staring at the sky. Mrs. Bello called. "We just got confirmation," she said. "The United Nations wants you to speak at the Women's Leadership Forum in Nairobi. They want you to tell your story." Adaora's eyes widened. "Me? Yes, you. A story of betrayal turned into strength, of silence turned into a platform," Adaora whispered. "Thank you." As she hung up, she stood in the still night air, the quiet humming of Lagos around her. She had walked through fire, but she hadn't just survived. She had emerged gold. 1 year later, a sleek black car pulled up at Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison. A woman stepped out. Cynthia. She walked through the metal gate, past guards and concrete. Victor waited in the visitors area, his face pale. Cynthia sat down. He swallowed. "Why are you here?" She pulled out a manila envelope. "Laurel's private hospital," it read. Victor frowned. "What's this?" Cynthia placed a sonogram photo on the table. "I'm pregnant." Victor blinked. "But we haven't—" "I moved on," she said flatly. "I came here because I want you to know something." "What?" "The child I'm carrying will never know your name." Victor stared at her, mouth open. Cynthia stood. "You broke everything you touched. This time, I'm building without you." She walked out, heels clicking. Victor buried his face in his hands and sobbed, truly sobbed, for the first time. Because for once, he understood. He had lost everything. The end. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed the story so far, please drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you won't miss any updates. Thank you, and remember, we love you.